Brian, how's everything going at home?
Things are going great. Yeah, he's at a stretch of a few really good days, so we're hoping to keep it going.
Awesome.
All it takes.
Yep.
Amy, any cancellations or changes to the agenda?
I'm afraid not.
All righty. Chairman's gonna plow right through.
Let's hope so.
Carl
I
will
guess
be able to do the roll call quickly.
Okay,
Yes.
guess it's time to open this Monday night, May 10th, Littleton Conservation Commission meeting at 7:30. Amy, do you have to read that script again, or is that
I do not. We can just go right into it.
great? Approved, we've got two sets of minutes to approve, April 12th and April 26th.
Yep.
Why don't we do the 12th first, if anybody's got an omissions or corrections to it?
I only had a few minor grammatical, but I didn't have any wording changes.
And Kyle sent over his comments.
Anybody else?
Those are for the 26th, right? I don't think I had
For
anything on the first one.
Yeah, for the 12th too.
Can we do the April 26th and we vote them together?
Let's do them, I think as procedure, do them individually.
Okay,
So I move that we accept the April 12th minutes as written.
somebody want to second that?
I'll second.
Carol, you wanna
Yeah.
do your thing?
Yeah. Carl Melberg, aye. Sarah Seward,
Sarah Seward, aye.
James Pickard,
James Pickard, aye.
Andrew Smarco,
Andrew Samarco, aye.
Brian Crowley,
Ryan Crowley, aye.
Kyle Maxfield.
Kyle Maxfield, aye.
Okay, I guess that's it for tonight.
Okay. So we'll, I guess we go with the April 26th meeting.
I move that we accept April 26th minutes as written.
We're here a second.
Second.
Roll call, Carl Melberg, aye. Sarah Seward,
Sarah Seward, aye.
James Pickard,
James Pickard, aye.
Andrew Samarco,
Andrew Samarco, aye.
Brian Crowley,
Ryan Crowley, aye.
Kyle Maxfield.
Kyle Maxfield, aye.
That's unanimous.
Okay, guess we move down to the agenda discussion. Land use permit. Story walk at Hatwell Conservation Land, I assume.
Yes, exactly. And yep.
We
This
had
is
already
Scout.
spoken of it. Do you just need a vote, Amy?
Unless you'd like to hear what Reagan's going to be doing.
Oh,
She
cool.
is here.
Did we hear about this one or did we hear about Oak Hill?
This is a different one.
This is different.
Yeah, we haven't heard this one yet.
Excellent. Reagan, you're on.
My name is
Yep, go ahead.
Okay. My name is Regan Donovan, and I'll Scout Silver Award on amphibians and vernal pools. And I would like to do a story walk at the Hartwell property on Saturday, May 15th, and Sunday, May 16th. And
What's your book?
and I'm doing the book Big Night for Salamanders. It's about salamander migration. And I would like approval. Like I submitted the land permit form.
Tell us about your passion for salamanders.
Yeah, so I think they're really interesting. And I've done like the brigade before that Amy runs. And I've been doing like my Silver Award project for a while, and I kind of got like pushed back because of COVID and stuff. And I'm doing an education piece. So this is like my education piece to educate people about like salamanders and vern pools and salamander migration and stuff.
Have you been able to educate some of your friends as well?
Yeah, and we're gonna do like another education piece probably in the future that we'll figure out. We're thinking about like making a video or something.
That would be cool to make a video documenting kind of like what you're doing now, your setup, and then during those days. That would be awesome.
Okay, I'll do that. Thank you. Thank you.
Has the paperwork been filed on this?
Yep, it's all set. And it's a big parking lot, so I don't think that's going to be an issue over there at Hartwell.
Has anybody from the board got any comment?
Sounds good.
Sounds great.
If it rains, are you still going to do it in the rain? Because the salamanders love the rain.
Yes.
Cool.
Oh, do you have any idea what types of salamanders you can anticipate seeing on that property?
I'm not sure. And if I don't see any, that's like, okay, like I'm still trying to educate people on like what they are and like what vernal pools are and like about them, even if they don't like see them hands on or like eyes on, like if they don't get to see them.
Great.
If you get down there, in there far enough, the bridge, or I assume there's a bridge, or used to be, that went across Beaver Brook there, Stone Bridge. That's down in there. Do I have a motion to move this along?
I'll make a motion that the board votes to issue a land use permit for the Story Walk at Hartwell.
Anybody else want to second it?
Second.
Al?
Yeah. Carl Melberg, aye. Sarah Seward,
Sarah Seward, aye.
James Pickard,
James Pickett, aye.
Andrew Samarco,
Andrew Samarco, aye.
Brian Crowley,
Ryan Crowley, aye.
Kyle Maxfield.
Kyle Maxfield, aye.
Well, looks like Julie's here. Julie Rupp.
Julie Rupp, aye.
Catch unanimous.
Good luck.
Thank
Well,
you.
Looking forward to it.
Good. Have fun. Town meeting article?
That's Article 21, which we had already approved. Amy, do you want to talk about that? Is that for 17,000?
Right, exactly. So it's a budget you'd approved before, but they're just asking for a formal vote of support from the commission.
I move that we offer a formal vote for Article 21, utilizing $17,000 from that cell tower fund.
I'll second. I'm trying to get my video on, but I'm seconding.
Carl Melberg, aye.
Sarah Seward, aye.
James Pickard,
James Pickett, aye.
Andrew Samarco,
Andrew Samarco, aye.
Brian Crowley,
Ryan Crowley, aye.
Kyle Maxfield,
Kyle Maxfield, aye.
Julie Rupp.
Julie Rupp, aye.
That's unanimous.
Okay. I see we got the next thing is agent's vacation.
Enough said. I'll be away basically the 24th through the 27th. And I'm not sure I'll be able to Zoom in because we have a meeting on the 24th. So if I will have it all set up with the notes like I usually do when I'm away. And that way, if I end up not being able to Zoom in, you can just fine without me. It's all taped anyway.
This is May 24th through,
Well, yeah, I leave the 21st, but yeah, so it's the 24th through the 27th of the days I'm taking off
of May.
of May.
Cool.
Okay.
Have fun.
Oh, yeah,
Joy.
I'm leaving now.
Do we need to take a vote?
No. It is in my contract, Carl.
The next is to update the Mary Shepard Trail Walk.
Basically, yeah, did you want to try to reschedule that? Maybe try for Wednesday again?
I was out there alone last time, just so you know.
I know. See, on my phone, I can't just type in LCC and get everybody. I have to do them all of you by like memory. That didn't work out so well.
I
I
can't.
figured a little bit of rain couldn't throw this off, you know?
That was some little
Should be pretty good this week.
I can't do Wednesday, but I could do Thursday, I think, maybe.
I could do
Thursday work for some people?
So what time on Wednesday?
Usually been shooting for 5:15 or so, because that's when people can, arrive.
Okay. Yeah, I could actually maybe do Wednesday.
I can't do this Wednesday.
Okay.
But don't
Yeah, I kind of like Thursday also.
hold it on account of me. I also can't do Thursday.
Oh,
We've got, so I may have to. I did do a drive-by though, but yeah, don't. So
Yeah.
don't.
I'll be unavailable Wednesday, Thursday this week also.
Well, I think we should find a time maybe the following week then, because Carl, you know that area pretty well. I think it would be good.
Yeah.
Maybe if you pick a day, Carl, and what the commissioners try and
Well,
work on it.
I don't care. The following week's fine with me. Just pick a day. I'm good. It's just Wednesday, Thursday. I'm going to be busy at work.
how about Tuesday, the 18th?
Yeah, that's fine.
That should work for me.
5:15.
Tuesday,
You just send out
5:15.
an email reminder for that too.
Yeah, that's what, the 18th? Okay, good, thank you.
Okay. 93 Manawanaki update.
Oh, okay, yeah, he has demoed the patio. This is a guy who basically built the wrong thing and is reconstructing the deck as was approved.
Good.
Yep, we saw it. Amy and I went out. We saw he staked the area that was originally permitted for construction, and so that looked accurate. And then we also he didn't have any erosion controls in place yet, and so we just reminded him that he needed to put his erosion controls in place and let Amy know, so she could do a spot check before he needed the controls in place before construction, and then just to let Amy know to do a spot check.
Yep.
Okay. 16 Deer Run update.
Basically the same thing. This is Mr. Portanova who took down the tree and did a whole bunch of sort of loam. It's been, like, it's all hydro-seeded. Oh, because we saw it from 12 Blood Road. And he does have the erosion controls up that I asked him to put in. So the grass is growing. Just give it a few more months and it might be all set.
59 Foster Street.
59 Foster Street. That is as much a reminder to me as anything else. This is someone who, among other things, wants to control invasive species, some of which are in the wetlands, and it's right next to the wetland, a little stream. So I'm not sure how the commission feels about that. I told he would probably need to do a request for determination of applicability since he's working so close to things. He would like maybe even to do a tiny bit of regrading. He built a bridge without a permit. So I said, well, let's get an after the fact footbridge type thing in there. And there's been a lot of people coming by and just asking, what can they do about invasive species? When do they need a permit? And this goes back to maybe if we can come up with some thresholds. If you're under the threshold, then I can just get an administrative approval because they are a minor project. And if you're over a threshold, you definitely need to file. And then there's still going to be a gray area in there.
I think any type of flyer would be great. And then we can also highlight disposal as well, disposal options. So,
well, yeah, about that. That's going to take a fair bit of work. And I know Andrew and Rick have been trying to get a handle on it. But it's really hard. There's so many species, so many different ways of treating it, so much information out there. I was almost thinking that it might be worth trying to get a grant to have someone help us pull the planning piece of this together.
yeah, that would be great.
That would be a good idea.
Yeah.
I have no idea where to get the grant. Hey, Fish and Wildlife Service giving out grants.
Oh yeah, they do.
I know they do, but there's more grants out there for the actual treatment. as opposed to the sort of planning, mapping element, public education element of it. So I'm putting some feelers out to some engineers and consultants and just kind of see what they think. I tried, Corey over at the water department might have some ideas of who might have, because I don't think it's going to take much.
Are we sure
money.
that we're not kind of reinventing the wheel, that other communities haven't already designed something similar?
Clearly. So it's a question, there's just a lot of stuff to go through, and the feds have stuff, the state has stuff, Groton has some great stuff. None of it's necessarily complete. Some of it may or may not agree with, especially in terms of saying whether or not to use herbicides. So it's gonna take a little bit of thought. I might start throwing up some of the more state level how to deal with invasive stuff. So at least it's up on the website. I think I had some on there. I can't remember now. And the trust is trying to get this going, especially with the garlic mustard is kind of the first thing, because it's that time of year too.
Right. Yeah, Harvard's been pretty getting after that for sure. Are there?
Yeah, and I don't know. It sounds like you haven't had a lot of response, so it's got to take something to get it out to the public.
We've had a few people send actually things to the trust through the website saying, hey, there's some garlic mustard on this street or over here or over there. So we're kind of getting tips on where it is, but I think what we're maybe looking to do at some point is to maybe have kind of like a trail crew version of like an invasive plant team of some kind. Yeah. But like you were saying, there's so many different aspects of the type of plant, how to control it, what to do. So it's a lot of information to compile.
Yeah, and that can be kind of boilerplate, but getting the maps, what is a priority, rather than having Rick run all over town trying to do it all himself, is the tough part.
Yeah.
Amy, is it something that we'd have to put into the regulation in terms of who has to file? Like how de minimis and all that stuff, it seems like it would be more on the regulatory side. Like we wouldn't be able to just create it outside of it, would we?
Well, you've already got the minor project approval policy, that has to do with the tree cutting, and what was the other one? There was another one. Oh, what you expect, when you would expect to see an RDA versus a notice of intent for a septic system. So, policy guidelines, things like that, I think are fine outside the regulations.
Okay.
I don't think you want to make it too complicated and discourage people from doing stuff. They'll do it.
Yeah, that's the hard part.
I'm curious if there's any academic institutions that we could connect with that might want to do an internship credit or independent study for someone over a course of a semester or summer that could help do that for us. And I know we've had some really good success with interns.
I think that's another really good option too.
Yeah, very good option.
And and along the same lines, SVT is kind of desperate to do something over at the Smith property, and there's a lot of poison ivy mixed in with the invasive species, so they can't really send the volunteers out there. So they just want to know if you would want a new submission for them to come back into you, if you're willing to do a site walk to go out there and just really see what's going on. They would still like to be able to try to do cut and daub in the buffer zone, because it's just going to be really difficult to attack any of this a different way.
But the poison ivy isn't a cut and daub, is it? Or is it?
No, but it means that they can't have volunteers out there digging up the roots of the invasive species that the poison ivy is all intertwined with.
Now, is that something, I know that goats are good at poison ivy consumption. Is that something they'd consider?
Well, she was asking, and a neighbor, I think it was a neighbor of the 59 Foster Street, and somebody over at the other pond, Cobb's Pond, had talked about bringing in goats. I think the library brought in, or the school brought in some goats, and SVT was wondering if the commission felt that, just bringing in goats and letting them graze away is anything that would actually need a permit, or they can just do.
I think when we've done it in town over by the Chinese church on the property there, it was just, they just came in and notified us and we gave them permission. It didn't, at that point, didn't require a permit. Obviously some of the other towns like Carlisle do it on a regular basis. So I would support that for sure.
Yeah, I think that's what we told the family on Foster Street too, was we appreciate the heads up if you're going to be doing it.
Yeah, because I stopped by because originally they were also thinking it might be goats, it might be pigs, and you know there's a big
Right.
difference between goats and pigs on a property.
Yeah, we
pigs are, I wouldn't support
Yeah.
pigs.
Yeah, we discourage the pigs.
But yeah, no, goats, and I think goats would be great.
Okay.
All right, well, when I sent out the email about the Mary Shepard site walk, I do think it's worth trying to get out there and do a Smith site walk to see what's going on out there.
Okay. Oak Hill Bike Trail?
We can either, sure. We walked the site with, I'm not gonna remember his name, someone who, Bruce Ringwald gave me his name, of the biking community, and Bill Brown, because there's been a lot of created bike trails going on in there, and it was even worse last year. So they actually came up with a plan to close some of those bike trails. Some are good trails and they'll remain. So if you walk Oak Hill, you might start seeing some signs up about closing trails and keeping bikes out of the Tophet Chasm as well.
Okay, then I guess the next one is Commissioner's term to reapply by June 1st. I suppose I might as well speak up on that one. I have already spoken to the town clerk and the new elected selectman and told them that I am stepping down. So that leaves the rest of you to reply as to what you want to do.
Wow.
And have you actually left town? You
I'm
went back
sorry,
on?
what?
Have you actually left town? You went back on?
Oh, yeah, I'm in Ayer now. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I thought someone said you were still owned property. I wasn't sure how it was.
Yes,
working out.
I still own the 29 Juniper there. Yes, but it's going to be sold pretty soon. It's going to be, hopefully. I mean, we haven't put it up for sale yet, but we're fixing it up for
Yeah.
sale. Yeah.
Carl,
And
Julie, and Cahill. I assume
Yeah.
you folks would be still want to stay on the board, or?
I think I'm moving on to the Shade Tree Committee. So we finally have our funding and we're up and running, and I've been doing the two sort of simultaneously right now, but I think they do need a bit of attention so we can get the shade tree up off the ground.
Mhm.
Oh, no, that's the step in the wrong direction, Matt. I literally
Julie,
saw Chase running on the street and I started running after him, like, Chase, come back.
Julie, I assume you're probably going to stay on or want to be reappointed?
Yeah, I'm planning to stick around.
Carl?
Yeah, I'm gonna stick around for one more term.
Okay.
So we got to drum up one more person.
Yeah, big shoes to fill, Jim.
Yeah.
I know, Jim, you're a fixture here. We can't allow this.
I know. Ever since I've been on the commission, he's there. Boy.
I believe I counted up. I've spent 42 years on the board.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
So
Wait, when's your last day, James, then?
It's the end of
either
June
The end of
30th.
June. Okay.
other updates and administrative action.
The only other one was 28 Westchester, which I think I had sent you an email about. That's actually Alicia Day's property. It's very weird. There's a barn foundation out there and they want to build the barn. But I wasn't sure what your reaction would be to that. If that was a pre-existing thing, the foundation is there. The floor of the barn is not a slab. It was intended to be, but it is not. So if you get a chance to drive by, I think I'm actually going to put Alicia on the next agenda to come in and kind of talk about it. They've been doing a lot of work cleaning up the property.
Yeah, I drove by. It does look like some clearing in the buffer zone. It has happened. There's wood chips in that wood pile. In the
That was the old owner, and they've been cleaning up all that stuff.
I see.
So I pointed out to them, they still have a lot of opportunity for mitigation.
Yeah.
If they can get past the hurdle of working within the 50 foot for the barn.
Yeah.
I didn't measure it.
That foundation. I mean, that's been it. So I did drive by. It's basically a square concrete foundation with vegetation in the middle. So that's really all it is at the moment.
Yeah, it had been, apparently it had one floor built at one point apparently, and that all got torn down. They did want to build, they're kind of calling it a lean-to off one side. I said it's probably a non-starter on the wetland side. They can't move it further away because there's a easement right there. So
well, there's a septic hill right there as well. It looked like, and then my other question would be, would they need a driveway to it from the front of the house off Westchester? Because that would
off of Ipswich.
Oh, off of Ipswich would be the access.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, it's very wet down there, in the Ipswich vicinity. Very, very wet.
Yeah, it's a difficult situation.
Yeah.
All right. So I think we got to go ahead with 7:45. It's 7:55.
Okay.
So that's the RDA for 10 Sarah Indian Way.
So I think we left it that we were just working on verbiage for that, for the order of commissions.
Yes, which I had sent around, basically just the conditions, and he did provide the the to scale plan.
Yep. Okay. So I think if anyone doesn't have any questions, we would move forward with closing it. If someone wants to make a motion.
I'll make a motion that we close the public hearing and issue was that a -2 that we decided on at the last?
Should be a 3, I think. I will double check when we.
You have the hand up.
There's a hand up.
Oh, we have a hand up.
Yeah, I'm sorry. This is Matt Strayer. I was unable to make the last meeting due to a personal commitment. So can you just summarize again the statement? What is being allowed?
Yep. So I can go back to the minutes. At the last public meeting, I will just read for you, Mr. Strayer, some of the notes for the request for determination. Mr. John Brooks, resident, was present for the meeting, submitted a proposal to the Littleton Conservation Commission for installation of a privacy fence, presented the application and proposed fence. Discussion ensued, and the recommendation was for the applicant to closely read the waiver required. Actually, I'm reading the 12th, not the 26th. I apologize. So that conversation, and the commissioners can help on that, was a cedar fence elevated off the ground, and it was stopped and then staggered by the road, and then it had to be hand dug. No exterior treatment placed on it as well. And Amy, I don't have the minutes in front of me from that as well.
Yeah,
So
that was
I
it.
guess I just appreciate, and my the other abutter on the other side who for technical difficulties can't make it here. I think she did reach out to me to again express her disapproval of the application. So I'm speaking on her behalf. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to do that, but for the record, I'd like to admit that the other abutter is also disproving the request. So in this case, we've got two abutters both disproving the request for a waiver, and it's not clear to me why the conditions have been met. If the commission could explain why the waiver conditions have been met, I'd appreciate that.
Basically under, and someone else can jump in. I'm trying to find them actually underneath. Under the regulations, a fence that does not provide a barrier to wildlife is, for all intents and purposes, exempt. So the real issue in front of the commission was whether or not this fence, since it is built in segments and will be a minimum of 6 inches off the ground, is not a wildlife barrier.
I'm sorry, so the bylaw I thought specifically mentioned fence, and you're saying that it's a different regulation that allows the fencing?
The bylaw in this case reverts to the State Wetlands Protection Act, which has the minor projects for fences that can go up to, and actually I guess into the wetlands if they are not a barrier. It's got nothing to do with aesthetics or anything like that. It's just the wildlife.
So the town bylaws do not apply. That's what I'm hearing.
They revert to the state.
That's disappointing. Thank you for the explanation.
I just opened the draft order conditions. It's a -3 on the
Thank you.
on the form. I did want to add one thing that we talked about though, which was the concern that the commission had regarding digging posts in the critical root zone of trees, and that the applicant had mentioned they would just move the location of where they were digging a post if they encountered like a large root or something. So could we add that to the?
Yeah, so that was the other conditions, was that they're going to pre-stake where they would put the post holes, as well as the fence itself, so that I can go out and approve.
Yeah, you're going to approve locations, right? Maybe that was
Right.
the condition.
Yes.
Right, but you might encounter roots like beneath the ground. I mean, that happens all the time. You dig and it's like, oh shoot, there's a big root here. So I'm not sure how a pre-inspection would avoid that piece. Are we able to have some flexibility? I was under the impression with the applicant that that wouldn't be a problem.
Again, as the abutter, there's roots everywhere. I don't understand how you would be able to miss roots. They're everywhere.
Well, we're talking about the critical root zone. I don't have an expectation that 100% of the roots will be missed.
There's really like 15 feet between the wetland and the right-of-way. It's completely full with roots.
Yeah.
Has anyone from the commission visited the site? I think on the meeting 2 times ago, it was suggested that the commission do a site visit. Has that happened?
I've been out there, and the commission's been in the area, but not on the site.
So what do you want to do, folks?
I mean, the fact that it's kind of exempt, what is it really? What else can we do?
I mean,
other than
I can add
these
the
conditions?
I can add the condition or the clarification that if they hit a major root, they'll have to relocate the post and probably call me back in, I guess. I don't want to stand there and watch them dig post holes. They can't really be all that big.
Right. Yeah. I don't think you need to be out there doing oversight, but I do think a condition stating that they will avoid, the posts by definition are going to go close enough to the trees to be within that critical root zone area. And so I would want, perhaps they can take a photo if they need to move a post, and send it to you for email approval.
I think that's fine. And also on previous projects, we've had a commissioner be a liaison to it. So Amy could work with another commissioner that can help oversee it as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm working remote full time at this point, that I could probably make time to pop out there if they say, hey, we're going to be digging fence posts on Tuesday.
Right. Yeah. Midday tends to be easier for me than the evenings. So,
So Amy, I think in the outline to that, you can state that a agent or commissioner will help oversee it.
Yep.
Okay. We do need a vote, though.
I think Andrew had started a motion.
So
Yeah.
I'll go ahead, unless there are no other comments from the abutters, I'll go ahead and make a motion that we close the public hearing and issue a -3 determination for the project at 10 Sarah Indian Way, DEP. Oh, wait a minute, there is no DEP file.
Yeah, right.
I'll second.
Roll call. Carl Melberg, aye. Sarah Seward,
Sarah Seward, aye.
James Pickard,
James Pickett, aye.
Brian Crowley,
Brian Crowley, aye.
Kyle Maxfield.
Kyle Maxfield, aye.
Sorry, Andrew. Julie Rupp,
Julie Rupp, aye.
Andrew Smarko.
Andrew Samarco, aye.
It's unanimous.
Okay, continue public hearing notice of intent, 5 Cottage Way. Construction of a septic system. Somebody gonna speak to that?
Good afternoon. This is Jacob Lemieux with Hancock Associates. Dave Cowell, the wetland scientist on the project, should also be on. He is on. Dave, are you muted maybe?
He is, and Jacob, you're actually in there twice, but that's all right.
Oh, can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Oh, outstanding. Sorry about that. I'm having some audio difficulties on my end. My computer audio isn't working, so I'm calling in from my phone. Thank you, Jacob. Yep, this is David Cowell with Hancock Associates representing the applicant. This is our second public hearing on a notice of intent and request to permit a septic system at 5 Cottage Way. Since the previous hearing, we did have a site walk with several members of the Conservation Commission. We had a list of additional items that the commission had wanted detailed on our site plan and some additional analysis of alternatives for access and siting out there. I can walk you through, if I can share screen.
Please.
I can. All right. Let's see. Can you guys see the plan that's on my screen?
Not yet. There it is.
Okay. All right. So I'll pull back a little bit. There's a separate site plan, but this is just a color exhibit plan for Talking Place. We were asked to color this so that some of these items jump out. So first and foremost, and I think the biggest change, which is actually a positive change, is our site access. I'll just go through the color coding on this. Here's the existing house. The green is the 50-foot no build zone under local bylaw. The speckled color type is 100-foot buffer zone. And the red color type is actual wetland resource area. So in this case, we have an intermittent stream with some associated BVW abutting it. The primary thing was site access. Previously, we had detailed that there was a construction access over the stream where we still need to cut the stream to install the main line going out to the septic leach field, which is upgrading of the house. But we found alternative access from the neighbor's property. The neighbor was so gracious to permit us site access. For those that attended a site visit, this negates the necessity to cross the stream with a temporary access crossing. It's actually ideal in the context that it's located over an existing open footprint that won't require any vegetation clearing and it won't require any grading. This was the site access that was used when they were doing test pitting out here to ensure that the leach field percolated. So this, it was a question from Mass DEP as well. It was one of the comments received by the state. And we think that this is a win in the context that it really reduces the longevity and the size of impact associated with crossing the wetland. In this case, we would still need to cut this during a dry condition to install the main line and then backfill it and recontour it, but there won't be a crossing over this for any prolonged period of time. So we hope that this is well received, that we're able to do that. The second item on our list, well, one of the questions that came from the site walk is that the stream crosses Cottage Way. At this point, you can see some contour lines. It actually moves down gradient. The current culvert right here is a granite slab on top of concrete blocks that was built, I can't imagine how long ago. There were some questions as to whether or not we'd be able to repair or replace the culvert. We did ask the neighbor, and although the neighbor is willing to grant us access, he denied us the ability to do any civil work to replace the culvert. His concern is that by granting, he can grant the site access without being named on the notice of intent of the permit itself. But once we start to do civil work, such as a culvert placement, that's actually on his property and not on Mr. Triano's property. Tropiano. I have another client named Triano. Tropiano's property. Yet that he doesn't want to be involved in a permit, anything that would need to be recorded against his order of conditions at the Registry of Deeds that would impose a lien on his property title. So we were not granted that. A few other details we were asked to do. We actually did do a tree inventory of trees on the property that are intended for removal. If I zoom in, we can actually see if I can grab something I can drag. We did a tree inventory of any trees that were in proximity to the main line that may need to be cut, and specifically some of the trees that are over the leach field that we'd need to remove. So we quantified that there was a total of 26 trees that may need to be removed. Some of these, particularly the ones around the main line, may not need to be removed, but we've qualified those as a worst case scenario. 26 would be the number of trees that we would need to take out. Most of these trees are white pine. There is some black birch that's in there. There's one red oak, and there's 2 or 3 snags that we included as well. With the tree removal, one of the other questions that came out of the Conservation Commission was how can we restore the 50-foot no disturb zone, which we're requesting variance for. Initially, in our first plan set, we had a native seed mix that we were applying to this. My concern was that if we planted native shrubs or trees, was that the root structure would damage the leach field itself. I was actually corrected on that by our engineer, said that as long as it's not directly over the leach field and it's on the mounding, that we can plant some trees and shrubs. So I did update our restoration plan to include a total of 50 shrubs and small trees. Small trees are witch hazel, which don't grow very high in height and don't have a very large root structure. I'm going to switch now to the site plan itself that's been revised. And this site plan here carries our, this is the stamp site plan that we've resubmitted. So it actually carries a planting schedule where we've suggested 20 alternate leaf dogwood, 20 sweet pepper bush, 20 eastern shad bush, and 10 witch hazel. And we are still planning on seeding this with native seed mixes. This is a 3-to-1 ratio blend of New England erosion control restoration mix blended with New England conservation wildlife seed mix. That's our plans for restoring the disturbance within the 50-foot no disturb zone. The other items that were requested by the Conservation Commission were to find out where there actually is. It's not only the unlined cesspool where the outhouse is, but the house has gray water, which is there is plumbing off of a well that every time he washes dishes, with detergent and things like that, it goes into a.
Yeah, it's up a little bit next to the house.
Yeah, I'm on that. Yeah, you're right. God, if I could just grab something I could drag. Why is this not cooperating? It's so slow. This is the gray water. It's actually immediately adjacent to the house. This is very close in proximity to Fort Pond. So that's one of the benefits of the system too. Is it'll not only provide wastewater treatment for the outhouse in waste, but also the gray water will be taken offline. This is just this will just be taken off land and abandoned in place exactly as it is. And then the last item that we were asked to do was to detail where the new wellhead is proposed. Jacob, I thought it was on this side of the house.
It's right near where just to the northeast of the existing garage, near that ledge there. There's a bunch of arrows going
Okay.
to it.
Here's the existing garage.
Up, yeah.
This is it right here. Oh, right here in the, okay, right. So this is where we propose to site the future well. And of course, we have to respect the wellhead septic from the septic system and from this. The prior well, which was located right on water's edge of Fort Pond, will be decommissioned and taken offline. So that summarizes our changes and our revisions and our update. And with that, I'd be very happy to field any questions from the Conservation Commission that you may have on this project.
Have you got a approval from the Board of Health?
Jacob, did we go to Board of Health yet with the system?
We've been working with the Neshoba Board of Health, which is another thing that we had tweaked here. Is we moved the reserve area to a place that they had preferred, which is just on the side of the trenches instead of in between. I don't think they've issued a permit for it yet, but we have submitted the plans with them, and they are working on reviewing them.
I would imagine they'll be interested to know conservation outcome. Did you consider a tight tank?
We did consider a tight tank, but a tight tank is really a last resort in Title V. And it's not something that we would normally consider for an upgrade of a single-family home like this, unless it was that absolutely there was not a single spot on site that perked.
Well, but I mean, this project is, seems to be pretty significantly impactful, to crossing a stream, in the buffer zone impacts. I do recognize the issues with the gray water and the cesspool, and so that certainly is a benefit. We don't want that discharging in the vicinity of Fort Pond. But I mean, this is an incredibly impactful project, and if you haven't seriously considered or researched a tight tank and talked to, Jim Gareffi, I would encourage you to do so.
Sure, we can certainly talk through it with him, but I would anticipate that he would ask us to avoid it.
Yeah, I think it will be an interesting conversation because historically he has not supported it.
Right. Yeah, and it did come down from our senior director of engineering, provided us some guidance on it. But yeah, no, I mean, we really are, this didn't come without a lot of forethought in terms of our siting out here. Again, in our initial submittal, we did several test pits that wouldn't necessitate a stream crossing, and nothing perks out there. It really is the soils
It's all ledge.
are constraining out there. It's all ledge out there, right? We've found a spot, a seam in the ledge where we can mound a leach field and get it to perk to meet the requirement.
Are we to assume that because you do not have Board of Health approval that you're not seeking to close this?
No, we are seeking to close this if possible.
You do recognize that if the Board of Health has changes, that you may have to come back and start again?
I do, but I think that we're at a spot with Jim Gareffi and the Board of Health where we're comfortable taking that chance. I think that we're close enough to approval that would work for us.
Yeah, but you don't have a Mass DEP file number yet?
I thought we don't have one issued yet. We do. They provided us comments.
They do. It just didn't show up on the agenda.
Oh, okay.
And what is that DEP number? 2049.
I'm not sure. It might be 935. I'm not positive.
The applicant should know.
I know we are up to date with, actually 12 Blood Road might have gotten 935.
Okay. Any of the commissioners have questions? I'm not sure who's sharing that screen.
I was wondering about the planting. You mentioned witch hazel. Were there any other types of shrubbery that you were thinking of planting there?
Oh yeah, it was witch hazel, alternate leaf dogwood, sweet pepper bush, and
Eastern shade bush.
oh, eastern
Shadbush.
shadbush, yeah, Amelanchier, yeah. These are all, I selected species that I thought would fare pretty well in that environment, given the shallow soils, and it's mostly upland soil types, so I selected facultative upland and facultative species that I think would really succeed well there.
Yeah, that's a good mix, actually. At least in my opinion.
Oh, so one thing on the you identified the tree locations. You didn't. Do you have a list of the trees and species and DBH of the ones that are 26 that are being removed?
We do. Well, we provided in written narrative right here, Carl, where we have a total of, we inventoried trees that were anything that was 5-inch or greater. We had a total of 26 trees. 13 were white pine, 9 were black birch, 3 dead snags, 1 red oak. Average diameter breast height is 16 to 18 inches. And the largest tree we have out there is a 28-inch white pine. And I don't know if it was itemized. We did have tree species and diameter breast height when we located them.
I think we show it on the plan, but we don't have a itemized list on the plan.
No.
Is this house full-time occupancy? You remind me of that.
I believe it's either
outhouse now,
seasonal
right?
or, yeah.
Sorry, Dave, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. No, it's I don't think it's his primary residence. I think this is a seasonal weekends recreation. Yeah, if you, each of our trees on our plan, like where it says 16-inch RO is a 16-inch red oak, 18 white pine is an 18-inch white pine. So we did itemize the diameter of our site. Sorry to digress. But no, this is not primary residence.
Have you looked at other technologies like a Incinelet or composting toilets have, have gotten, a little more.
So, yeah, I see where you're going with this, Julie, because you're
This
thinking
is
from the
really impactful.
Well, I think you're thinking of the seasonal nature. In addition,
Or the next step is to, increase the usage, and whereas I understand wanting to improve the cesspool and the gray water, those are conditions that we certainly don't want on site. This likely wouldn't be buildable anymore, with the current regulations. And I just want to be careful that we're not, kind of going down the road of, a negative feedback loop with just more increased usage, or more than the site can take, just based on what we're seeing on this figure. Fort Pond is our only non-impacted pond in town. The rest need TMDLs under the Clean Water Act. I just really feel as though the applicant should try to explore some other methods, so we know that there really is no other choice.
I guess I'm struggling to find the impact. I mean, it's from a water quality perspective, this is a significant improvement. Any stormwater engineer will say that this represents a significant improvement to water quality. I understand that we're very close in proximity to the stream. This is compliant by Title V in Board of Health standards. But again, we're constrained, and we are looking to restore our impacts within the 50-foot no disturb zone, which unfortunately is the only spot that we have to work with.
Right. So I'm thinking about the 26 trees, the permanent utility crossing of a stream, the grading right up against the stream. That's what I'm referring to with impactful. Again, I do recognize the water quality issues from a cesspool and gray water standpoint, but there have to be other, you mentioned a mound. If you could do an incinellet or a tight tank, and a mound for a gray water system. It just seems like there are other ways to do this.
So I agree, Julie, with your questioning. Has the applicant looked at any other alternatives other than this particular system?
Well, they did check this tight tank, but why is the Board of Health against the tight tank necessarily?
It's a generally a last resort for any kind of a septic installation. These Board of Health don't want tight tanks around town. They can cause problems. They get abandoned. They get damaged and they leak. And it's just, if you have a spot on site where you can install a system and you're capable of installing the system, every single time the Board of Health is going to try to push you to do that. If we had any other spot on site that was less impactful, obviously, we'd use it, but the whole front of the lot is ledge. And if we were to go any further back on the lot, we'd have to construct multiple wetlands crossings. So this is literally the only location for this on site. And I don't think that a tight tank is something that we could get through Board of Health. I mean, we could certainly push back and try, but I don't think that it would work.
You could tell them that you can't get this through us and see what they say. I don't think the wetlands in the stream should bear the brunt of the limitations on site. And again, I think if a robust conversation, versus, oh, we know they generally don't like something. I mean, I think you need a robust conversation with them to say, at least speaking for myself, I couldn't support this. I think there are alternatives.
But I would think that a tight tank would still need a pipe up to it, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it still need a crossing?
The problem with tight tanks, Anna, is that, as the applicant said, they get abandoned, and they're only good if you're diligent and constantly pump them.
Right, but I'm saying that I don't think a tight tank necessarily would help in terms of the crossing. You'd still need a crossing to take the sewage from the house to the tight tank, wouldn't you? And then, so the only thing that it would save really is potentially the clearing for the leach field, correct?
I was assuming the tight tank could fit maybe where the cesspool is or somewhere on site with a mound.
I don't think there's enough. I would defer to the engineer, but after a site walk, I don't know that there's enough room there.
He also said there's lots of ledge, so that
right. For a tight tank, it has to be 500% of the daily design flow, and you can only get approval of a tight tank for a failed system where there's no alternative. So it would be difficult to find a spot on site to fit it, and we may need to install a force main, but obviously we haven't designed a tight tank there, so we can't say with certainty.
I mean, it seems like they've done a lot of due diligence to minimize the crossing, and the planting and replacing a lot of the trees with planting. Granted, they won't be large like the other trees removed for a while, but they will eventually. So I don't know.
I'm starting to think about the ledge now a little bit, and I'm wondering, ledge typically tends to seep, and I'm wondering if that was looked at all as to where this location's going, because I would hate to have a bunch of seepage going down there, and then the the second thing is the those are fairly large diameter trees, and the you know, the positive things that the trees do and having them gone definitely adds a negative to the project. But do you have an answer about the ledge?
So I'm sorry, can you repeat the question about the ledge?
Ledge tends to seep because there's pores within ledge, and it tends to seep downhill, and everything you have, your slope obviously is downhill towards the lake.
But
So
septic systems are, in the Commonwealth, septic systems are designed to go through ledge and are built successfully in Massachusetts. So, I mean, a lot of people have ledge even outside of the wetlands as well.
Right. Well, that's also, you know, the primary factor of why we have the system where it is that we have 4 feet of naturally occurring pervious material beneath the system, and there's not ledge there. So we're up and out of the ledge. I don't think that the ledge seeping is gonna impact the system.
How thick was your overburden?
50 feet, pretty much 50 feet away, which is our standard distance that we usually allow it.
So how thick is the overburden then in your test pit area above the ledge? Did you hit ledge when you test pitted?
Let me just open up. Can you pull the test pit logs up on the plan? Can you zoom out a little bit?
Oh, yep. You just be my hands. Is it on this sheet or is it on the second sheet?
On the second sheet.
Second sheet. Gotcha. All right, second sheet. Where are we looking here at the deep hole? These pits right here, the table?
Yep. So we're looking at a deep hole A and D for the primary system. Deep hole A and D. So we've got
A right here, Jacob.
Oh yeah. So we did not. We got down to 84 inches and didn't find any. Yeah, we hit refusal at 84 inches, which you know, meets our minimum pervious material. But there is ledge there beneath the system.
So it's the minimum pervious material is met before you hit ledge. Could you talk a little bit about, you know, there are different systems that are designed for use in highly sensitive areas. You know, most septic systems are not designed to fully treat effluent, and you get some dilution, you know, down gradient. So can you talk a little bit about that for this system? Are you using like the maximum technology available?
I mean, we're creating a Title V compliant system, right? So we're not proposing any additional treatment other than what a standard pipe and stone system would provide, which is what Title V allows for.
Okay, so sure. So we've had other projects that have installed, and the name of the technology is escaping me, but I would imagine you're aware of
nitrogen sensitive areas. Yeah. So for
high groundwater, you know, a lot of our lake areas, the houses that were already there, instead of doing a mound, they're able to get, you know, a system within 2 feet of groundwater because it does a lot more treatment.
So, I mean, there are tons of alternative systems. As far as a reduction in groundwater offset, that would be a waiver or approval of variance for the from the Board of Health. But as far as different, I mean, there are kinds of treatments for nitrogen mediation for nitrogen sensitive areas, where if in Title V, if you're in a nitrogen sensitive area, you're allowed so many gallons per day per acre of land. I think it's 440 gallons per day per acre, and I believe that we meet this even not being in a nitrogen sensitive area. So We do meet nitrogen loading requirements as well. But I wouldn't be looking into using any alternative types of systems or technologies here. You know, you could install something that might give you a small reduction in the offset to groundwater, but you're not really going to beat a pipe and stone system in terms of reliability and you know, just how safe and few failure points there are in it. We can use, you know, there are tons of alternative technologies that can be used for special sites, but I don't think that any of them are going to fit us, especially here.
So what,
Jacob, you've had correspondence with Jim Gareffi going forward that you feel as though you're on par with him with this design?
Yes.
except that the Board of Health is waiting on our blessing, apparently.
Right.
So I don't want to get in a situation where we have, you know, Jim is like, oh, okay, great. Conservation said fine. I feel like,
I mean, it's a Title V compliant system, so as far as Jim is concerned, it's approvable. There's no we're not asking for any waivers or upgrades from him, so I don't. It just comes down to whether or not we'll get an approval from you guys, and it's worth even going forward with it.
So, Chairman, you have one hand raised. If the commissioners don't have any other questions.
We hear from that person.
Great. Thank you. My name is John Bergeron. Can you guys hear me all right?
Yes, we can. Go ahead, John. If you can state where you live, thank you.
Sure. It's a.
You're muted, John.
Great. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
Okay, great. John Bergeron, 227 Newtown Road in Acton, Mass. I'm actually on the pond. So first of all, thank you very much for the robust discussion. I do appreciate the discussion with the analysis of alternatives and what other opportunities might be explored. And I wanted to just make a couple of comments and then had a question at the end. It's good to hear the modifications to the stream and the additional access that would be afforded. So that's actually great news. But, one of my concerns is that the modifications that would have to be made in the no disturb area would be, from what I can tell, almost 5,000 square feet. And then, when you're changing the grading of where the septic mound would be, it's going to be flowing down into the stream. And I know the stream is periodic, but that's a real concern that I have, because it looks to me that the grading will be up to within about 8 feet of the stream itself. So I think we shouldn't fool ourselves in the fact that it would be a significant impact. The other question I had, and a comment's been made a couple of times tonight about, hey, we've looked at multiple alternatives and this is the only location where it's possible. I'd like to ask the question of what else was considered, because there's 6 acres on the property. And so while I appreciate, this might be the only alternative for the location of the cottage, and I'll reiterate cottage, that's what was set up. That was originally what was, put in here. I think that, just to be blunt, I think an alternative would be what would be to happen if they had to construct this, up the hill in an area that would perk and be more conducive to a septic system. Now, I'm sympathetic to the fact that this is a difficult situation. I just think it's simply the wrong application, meaning you've got a cottage that was, in my purview, meant to be a cottage, and now we're trying to turn it into a year-round home. Might an alternative, and I know it would be more costly, and I'm sorry for that, but it doesn't change the facts that, should a house just be constructed up the hill and put the septic system where you could get water area that could perk, it would be on the other side of, the other side of the stream, that kind of a thing, and just address that. I was encouraged to hear the discussion tonight around alternatives. I did some checking online. I learned about a tight tank myself, and then I do believe that the cottage itself does currently have a compostable toilet. I know that there are, various versions of and upgrades that have been made, and I wonder if, we keep talking about the cesspool and that kind of a thing, and is that really what we're replacing? Are we replacing a compostable toilet? So I think that needs to be considered. So those are my comments, and thank you for hearing me. My question is, what other alternatives were assessed, and to what degree? Meaning that there's 6 acres out there, and while alternatives may be more costly, it just simply may be the right thing to do for the pond. So thank you for hearing me, and I appreciate the opportunity.
So if the engineer for the applicant would like to address those comments, that would be appreciated.
Sure. So, I don't know if you want to talk, Dave, but I just wanted to point out, we've done, as far as alternatives analysis, we've done obviously soil testing. We've done about 10 holes or even more than that. I'm not sure, but we've done a lot of testing down around the house, and we've looked at the rest of the lot. But the problem with going any further on the lot, separate, of course, from rebuilding a house somewhere else on the lot, is as soon as you get over Shagbark Drive there's another wider wetlands on the other side, and that same stream loops back around. So we would have to cross that giant Shagbark mountain mound there that goes up about 15, 20 feet, cross Shagbark Drive, and then do another wetlands crossing on the other side before we could even attempt to reach the rest of the site.
I appreciate that, and thank you for the response. I mean, I realize it, but I'm just going to be blunt. If you look at just all of these lots, it wasn't clear to me that people built close to the water as meant to be cottages and not year-round homes. And I think that the Conservation Commission also needs to just consider that in the event that this were approved, if you look around the lake, how many other folks would be, piling on and saying, well, you approved it here, we want to do something similar. I think that a lot of neighbors and abutters have built houses that are actually further away. And I think that's for a reason. I think that's the way it was constructed. And, I'm just worried about, the impact on the pond itself. I heard a number of people voice their concerns, and I'm not convinced that the analysis of alternatives of, looking further upstream or up the hill has been explored to the furthest extent. So I would encourage, I'm not opposed to doing something here. I just want to be clear about that. I'm just not in favor of what's being proposed today. So I appreciate the analysis of alternatives that's being considered. Thank you.
Right. So I can speak to that a little bit. I know Jacob touched upon some of these subjects. So first and foremost, in terms of alternative analysis of what else can be done, we recognize that it's a 6-acre lot, so there's a lot of land there. These are very long linear properties. The very first constraint that we run into is immediately adjacent to the leach field, as we have proposed now. It's in grayscale, so it's tough to see, but there's an incredibly steep gradient embankment, which is entirely ledge. These are 1-foot contour lines behind here, and you can see the steepness of grade going away from the system, which sort of delegates. This is the only area that we found that perks within reason. Any effort to move a system further away is, first and foremost, it will not perk, again, because of shallow ledge. That any effort to move this system further on would require it would probably require blasting or rock hammering to work through ledge. It would create more of a surface area. We recognize that even if we were able to vacate the 50-foot no disturb, that if you're concerned about tree clearing here, the tree clearing required to move the system further out would only necessitate more trees than we proposed. It would require significant grading to meet that grade. And from an aerial perspective, these are the lots as detailed on Oliver. This is the cottage right here. This is where we have the proposed system is approximately here. This is a steep gradient slope going up to what is Shagbart Drive, but Shagbart Drive goes through here. And the rest of the property is even wetter than where we are here. There's an expansive wetland system that traverses. So it really renders most of the, you know, it's a 6-acre lot, but just based on the length of these things, they're not very wide. That it's much wetter. There's no practical alternative to relocating the leach field as we have it shown now that would result in less impact. It's not feasible because of the ledge and the grades, and it would only necessitate greater impact to wetland resource areas. There's a second stream that it would need to cross, and then you get into wetlands further up.
No, I appreciate your comment, but you're
So,
predicated on.
Mr. Bergeron would do, so we need to focus on the engineer's comments. So you've had time to make your comments. So we're actually going over with time. So we'd like to kind of wrap up with the engineers. Thank you.
So I have one more question, Carl. So part of an alternatives analysis is always a no action alternative. And is the current system in failure? Let me ask that, number one.
There is no system. It's an online cesspool.
Well, the cesspool would be the system.
Yeah. That's it's an online cesspool that you know, it's undeniably much worse from a water quality perspective. You just have human waste going to the ground into an online system. And you still have the gray water system, which is just, you know, detergent that's going into the house. You know,
this is a system that's been around for how long?
Oh, probably since construction of the house, however long ago that was. So it's not a failing system; it's a non-compliant system. It's no system at all. It's a hole in the ground.
It's compliant as long as nothing else changes, right? It's not failing.
Yeah, I guess it would be considered existing non-conforming in that context. But
I kind of just wanted to put that out there as something that should just be taken under consideration as we debate this.
Sure. Yeah, that's
you do have another hand raised also.
Right.
We've got to move on. We've got other people to talk to tonight.
So Chairman, I would go ahead and take the second hands up and just go ahead and limit, because we do have to keep going. And this will be the final question.
That's Cedar Michon.
Hi. Okay, Cedar Michon, 5 Countryside Road. First of all, I think both Julie and John have pretty much said a lot of what I wanted to say. So I'm going to make it short. I think this is a very significantly impactful plan. Fort Pond is one of the very few left live, fresh, healthy lakes in the area. We had freshwater jellyfish on it not that long ago. My husband's family has been on the lake for 3 generations. Through Kaliva, there's 50 plus members over there that swim and fish and enjoy the lake every summer. And I really would implore everyone to think about other alternatives. If there are other alternatives that we can do to protect the livelihood of Fort Pond, because it's a gem. So many lakes are dead and dying. And that's what I have to say.
Any other commissioners have any other questions? So the applicant has asked for closure. Is that correct?
Yeah, unless there's pending items that the commission wants from us that would necessitate a continuance, we're looking to close.
Well, did the commission want more on the alternatives analysis?
I would want more on an alternatives analysis. including, incinerator and, incinelet or composting toilets which would be potentially commensurate with the use of the cottage, including the gray water. And then also if a tight tank can fit without a crossing. I recognize the constraints, but I would want to see a, robust alternatives analysis, running the site challenges, as we've given feedback with Jim Greffy, for Title V.
Any of the other commissioners have anything else they would like to have the applicant submit?
Hey, Dave, this is Kyle. Just thank you for looking into a few of the things that we had discussed out on during our site walk. You guys made a very good effort. The site access was my major sticking point, but I do kind of agree with Julie. Word of mouth hearing you guys talk about alternatives. I'd like to see those alternatives. Even if it's just showing us visually that a tight tank can't fit on this site, or that it would still need this force main. The discussions are good, but visual is always the best for us, I think. So I'd like to see those alternatives laid out.
Is the applicant willing to do that? We meet again on May 24th.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is driven by the commission. If you guys want alternatives analysis, we'll work to provide that.
Okay.
And can I also ask if the commission, if it's worth looking at, and I'm not sure if there's room for any more trees to be planted where they're being taken down for the pipe crossing and or for the construction access on their property?
Over here? Oh, sure. Yep.
And I don't know if the commission cares how that access, you show the construction entrance, but then how is that construction access going to continue over? For example, could it stay outside of the 50-foot, or where's that going to be?
What's that? I'm sorry.
Well, from the point where your hand is over to the system, how do you get from A to B?
This is all, if you recall from the site visit, it's all cleared in here already. So there's no trees. It's traversable just straight across without any grading, without any tree removal. Again, it's the same path that they used for test pitting. So there's no obstructions. I mean, they have a straight path. We could designate a specific pathway in there, but there's no constraints in terms of traversability. With there's no additional vegetation or tree clearing necessary between the access path. This was just a stone tracking apron call out that was added here. But of course, we could detail that on our plan.
I was wondering if the commission might want to see some, if it's possible, to put some trees or shrubs in that area. It has no trees.
Yeah.
Well, that area is on the
Jacob,
opposite lot, unless you're
No,
talking
on Tropiana's property.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Here's, the property line is right here. That's the property line. So we can probably fill this area in here.
Okay, gentlemen, we've got to keep moving. So we will continue this to May 24th. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. We appreciate your time and your help.
Okay, the 8:15 discussion is 42 Shagbark.
And I didn't know, Mr. McDonald, I'd gone back and forth with him. He said he wanted to talk to his contractor first. So I don't know if the commission wanted to push this is for the barn, push this further down the road. He says the contractor was responsible for getting the permits, although I believe that the discussion back whenever it was directly with Mr. McDonald about getting the permit. So I don't know what the commission's wishes are.
So is there something outstanding with researching the permits then? Or does Ed have anything? Did anybody look? It seems like if we're missing information, it might make sense to.
There's nothing in the building files. Just the last thing in the commission files was asking for a permit to be filed for the barn.
And that was not filed?
No.
Okay. No, it shouldn't have been built. Okay. So, non-conforming.
So I don't know what the commission's desire is for a next step there. Continue these discussions, issue an enforcement order. It's been a long time.
That's been standing for what, like 6 or 7 years now?
I think it was 2014, I think I read.
Amy, do you want us to do a site visit? So then I think everyone can understand the proximity to the wetlands and what was built and.
Yeah, Ms. McDonald was here, but he left. Oh no, there he is. He's still here. I don't know if he had anything to say or not.
He has his hand up.
Hi, folks. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Thank you. So Amy and I exchanged a couple emails. I wasn't sure when she brought up the subject what the concerns were. But as Amy mentioned, this project was completed 7 years ago, back in 2014. And for this project, I hired a general contractor who was under contract to manage all the subs and oversee all matters related to permitting and dealing with the various town departments. I can confirm for you that he had an authorized building permit issued by the town of Littleton displayed at the job site. He obtained all the required sign-offs from the town for each inspection phase of the project and received the final approval from the town when the project was finished. He did everything by the book.
What is the proximity to the wetlands for the foundation?
I don't know, but I know.
Is it within the 100 feet?
I don't know. It's not. It's definitely not within 100 feet.
Well, that was the issue, because from the files I saw in there, it sounded like it definitely was within 100 feet. Certainly not within 50 feet, but.
Yeah.
So the contractor didn't, there's a box on that, I believe, back in that age of 2014, there was a box that the contractor would have submitted. Are you within a wetlands area?
Yeah, I like I said, he did everything by the book. He submitted the plan, with a site plan. You know, I don't see how he could have gotten an authorized building permit to go forward with the project if he didn't do all the prerequisite requirements. And not only that, I mean, there was people coming out from the town to inspect each phase of the project, and everything was signed off.
With due regard, the building inspector is not a wetlands specialist, so.
I thought you said Ed didn't have anything on file, just for point of clarification. I had asked that.
Oh, it was there. The building permit was in there, but there was nothing in there about the wetland. It's
got it.
You can issue a building permit without a wetlands permit, similar to the Board of Health can issue their permit without a wetlands permit, and vice versa.
Yep.
So Mr. McDonald says it's not within the 100. Do we know that for a fact? Because
I mean, I'd be happy to go and measure that. I can run a tape out to where things get wet. I mean, that wouldn't take me that long to do for you.
Well, it's beyond. It's you need to, unless you're a wetland scientist, you don't know where the start of the wetland is. You'd have to have a wetland scientist do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know, I don't.
Yeah, I
mean, for our own clarification, I think isn't that the main thing we need to know?
It is, or it's certainly a starting point.
So I think that once that's done, then the commissioners can go out and verify the wetlands flags. So it sounds like it needs to be flagged.
All right, let me look into that. Amy, should I get back to you as next steps?
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure thing.
8:30, continued public hearing, notice of intent, 16 Middlesex, Mass DEP 204931, construction of addition and deck. This is a continued hearing.
Yes, hello, this is John and Pat Ledger are present, and Matt Marrow is present as well. And hello, Matt. And Sherry Gould may participate as well. So Matt, if you'd like to start, I guess the point we'd like to make is that this is our third meeting with the committee. I'd like to say, I think we've heard your concerns loud and clear, and we have rethought our proposal, and we'd like to share the details of what we're now proposing with you. Matt?
Okay, good evening, everybody. Matt Morrow here representing the Ledgers. So, Amy, if I could be permitted to share the screen. Okay, so if the commission will recall from the original notice of intent filing, the original kitchen expansion was proposed to be an 18 by 15 kitchen with a deck coming around as noted in the dotted outline here. After listening to the commission's concerns from the previous meeting, some of us speaking with like Amy from the office, we took a look around the site, considered different alternatives, and essentially what we're here to propose tonight is essentially the following. We would reduce the size of the proposed kitchen from 18 by 15 to 15 by 15, pulling it back 3 feet. The proposed deck would also be pulled back. It would be cantilevered with no posts in the ground. So that would be another proposal. And
if I may, Matt, if I may, so in going 15 by 15 now, we would be placing the kitchen on the same footprint that the current deck and stairway is. So we'd be replicating that footprint. And what we're saying on the deck is to completely eliminate what we've proposed, with the exception of, like, as Matt mentioned, if it's permissible, a small cantilevered deck on the back wall of about 5 feet in width, and the width of the kitchen, which is 15, so that's about 75 square feet, versus the prior deck footprint that we proposed was like 265 square feet. Thank you, Matt.
okay, thank you, John. So what we're looking to do, I'm assuming everybody is seeing this, we're looking to propose a planting plan on site. You can see where the tape measures are left out here. This is approximately 400 square feet. So what we're proposing to do is to take this 400 square feet grass area that my cursor is now highlighting, and the planting plan would call for taking up the lawn area. We would propose a meadow mix that's enclosed in the table. The plantings of high and low bush blueberry planted adjacent to the wetland resource area, the high bush being adjacent, the low bush coming out more into the upland, to provide a shrub buffer that's compatible with the edge of the wetland, which would provide a shelter and food source for various wildlife. Now, based on the density used in restoration work, we're assuming a planting in a triangular pattern regimen with shrubs planted 5 feet off center. We would also propose this particular mix. This particular mix I've often used in meadow and buffer zone reclamation work. The nice thing about this mix, it's very biodiverse. It'll actually blend in with some of the vegetation in the adjacent undeveloped areas on Middlesex Road. It has cultivars in it that actually will promote pollinators to be drawn to it. It's a mix that's commonly used by New England wetland plants. It's got a very successful rate of growth. And I think in this area, it would be very compatible given if you look back at the photograph, this photograph was just current. You're looking like in this area over here, going to the side yard, and this area over here, you can see that during particular times of the day, the way the sun swings around the property, there would be a decent balance between sun and shade. So it would actually do a really good job growing in. It would blend in with the terrain that's around it, and it would actually reduce the amount of manicured lawn area by 400 square feet.
Matt, is there going to be a fence or something to keep people from going onto that meadow mix? Or what keeps kind of like human intervention of that or access of that?
Are you talking after it's stabilized?
Correct.
I'll let my client speak to this, but I don't see any reason why if you could do a post and rail fence. It could be used as a permanent demarcation area.
Yeah, so this is John speaking. We hadn't thought of that, but if that's an important part of the equation, it's certainly something that we can do. And we would want guidance as to, type of fence, construction, placement of the fence, so that we would be fully compliant. But I see no reason why we can't entertain doing that.
Well, I think a post and beam fence can be basically placed along this area here and not look so, shall I say, industrial as like a vinyl fence. It would blend in with scenery, it would make good demarcation, and it would have to be permanently maintained, which could be a perpetual condition on the order.
Okay, and the idea behind the fencing then is to prevent individuals from trafficking through it, right?
Yeah, so in other words, what the commission is saying here, John, is that in the future, say you and the missus decide to sell the home,
yep,
there would have to be something clearly demarcating the area that needs to be left untouched.
Understood. Yep. Understood, and we can do that. We just need to be educated as to how to do that, but we will do that.
Commissioners have any questions or comments?
Matt, could you go back to the plan and just rotate it? I was having trouble seeing it before.
Yeah, sorry about that.
That's all right.
Just bear with me for 1 second. Love these rotations. Yeah. Okay, here you go. The wetland resource area is essentially right here at the end of the arrows. Here is the original proposed kitchen. This is proposed to be moved back 3 feet. The deck size has been severely reduced and cantilevered. And the planting area would essentially be here and here, going all the way through the manicured lawn area. So it would essentially leave this small area where I have my cursor going over as remaining lawn. So it's a significant portion of the backyard that's proposed to be converted back into a naturalized state. Nice thing about that is that these particular areas and this particular mix has a very good flow cleansing effect. Just regular sheet runoff from rain will go through this. It makes a good vegetative buffer going to the wetland. Flows going off site actually would wind up having a layer of protection of cleansing going to the wetland prior to the wetlands doing its job. I mean, the BVW that you've got on this site is actually pretty confined. It's pretty small. So this actually would help to improve the function of the control of water quality going off that site.
I think we talked a little bit on one of the previous conversations about the area underneath the deck, how it was not an area, it was just gravel and unvegetated.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to talk about what would exist there now in your current proposal?
Yeah, let me get back to the, see if I can find a good representative photo of it.
Matt, I don't know if there's one in that book. I don't think there is.
Okay, John, did you want to speak to the commissioner's question?
Yeah, it's, right now, as you can see, it's crushed rock, and which is contoured, obviously away from the house, so there's a pitch to it. And my thinking would be to keep it as crushed rock unless there's unless we need to change it to another material, I guess. So again, there'll be no foundation on the room. The support system will be on pillars, so it will be open as it is now. And on the pillars, what I thought is to use, there's a company called Techno Metal, and it's a helicoil pillar. It's kind of like a big drill, and I read about it online. Our contract is familiar with them. He's used them before, and you have to have a certified installer do these. But the point is, environmentally, it's much, much less disruptive to the ground than when you're digging with conventional pillar, if you will. Anyway, so that was long. Sarah, I hope I answered your question. It's crushed rock. We would keep it as crushed rock unless we need to change it to something else.
Yeah, no, I was just bringing up some of the questions that we had previously.
Yep.
As you're talking about construction, can you talk about for the commission construction access, and if this will be hand or you'll have to bring in equipment to put in the pillars? Thank you.
Yes, I can. The equipment is surprisingly small. And again, if you go to Techno Metal and go to their website, there is a picture of the four-wheeled, it's not even a tractor. It's surprisingly small. I would say the wheelbase is, I'm just guessing, maybe I'll say maybe 4 feet. It might be less than that, but it's not a large piece of equipment that, and I guess it's proprietary technology, but it was surprisingly modest in size, not kind of unlike a four-wheeler, honestly. But it is able to drive these helicoils to whatever depth is needed. So, and there is a pass. So on the side of the house, there is ample lawn area there to get that piece of equipment back there. And then after that, there's no other big pieces of equipment that are needed.
It'll be around this way.
Yeah, exactly, Matt. Right, exactly. Yep. Yep.
Is there anything special you're doing with the drainage from the roof of your proposed kitchen, or is that something you're planning for later?
No, we were going to address that, and I would say we hadn't finalized the thought on that, but our thinking was to work to direct the rainwater away from the backyard, and so Matt and myself and our contractor had discussed this, and we hadn't arrived at like a final conclusion, just a recognition of trying to manage that water and thinking that, there's good solutions that are very workable. And it could be as simple as directing all of the rainwater or some portion of it into what do you call it, Matt? Vestibule, a natural vestibule with crushed rock, something like that.
Yeah, a dry well.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay.
And you could do a dry well here. You could do a roof leader with the flow pointing off to the side to allow it to sheet flow into the rain garden. It's set up almost like a rain garden. That area should handle that flow and any other associated sheet flow quite well. I mean, it's a significant amount of lawn area that's being converted back to a naturalized state with the meadow plantings along with the shrubbery.
Thank you.
I saw on, I think the previous slide, looks like you looked into the setbacks a little further and alternatives from that standpoint. Could you go through what you've done since the last hearing as far as an alternatives analysis and the waiver conditions that we've asked about a few times?
Well, what we did on that is, if you remember, we were talking about, I think, Julie, I think you were the one who had said, to explore alternate areas to expand. And so the only potential area would be to push out to the side, which I know we had touched on this. And there's real complications in doing that. The two largest ones are, because of the location of a full bathroom with the shower, toilet, sink, that would have to be completely gutted and pushed out. And there's nowhere else to locate it within the perimeter of the house. So if we push the bathroom out to gain room for a kitchen, then we're talking about having, and now again, here, Matt visited out here and our contractor did, and we went over that. And so then we would have to have like a full foundation put on the side in order to accommodate a bathroom. And then at that point, we just all said that turned into a very disruptive, big project, yes, but in terms of impact on environment and the terrain, we just all thought that was a much larger impact on the terrain, building a full foundation like that. So, and so, Julie, I guess my point is that it doesn't seem like a tenable option.
So I don't know if you got, like, how far down the road with that you got. So did you look at like the difference in roof area? I can appreciate the difference with the foundation. Do you know if it would require more roof area as well to do it that way?
Well, I have to admit, I don't know.
Yeah, that's okay.
I don't know. I feel like I can almost start doing a calculation in my mind, but I would be just guessing.
Yep. No, that's okay.
Yeah, we were thinking more about the ground and how we could improve the scenario on the site as far as buffering the wetland.
Yeah, that's a definite improvement. You know, the more you can reduce the lawn area within the 50s, big improvement.
Yeah, I mean, it's a significant amount of manicured lawn that would be eliminated. And as the planting plan calls for, which I did email to Amy just a little while ago, the grass would essentially be pulled out. So it's not like we turn the grass over or, you know, do something like that. The sod would actually be physically removed from site. And then any additional loam that was needed would be added, and then the planting would occur. So this is not like taking the grass and turning it over by hand and then mixing the seeds in, because all you're going to wind up with is grass growing in the middle of your cultivars, and that's not what we're looking to do here. So it's not like we're just digging up soil and then planting stuff. We're going to the trouble to physically take the sod out. So
this is going to be done right.
Did Matt, what are the invasives like there? Do you know?
Essentially, you have there's a wooded section of wetland on the abutting lot that goes off in the distance in the trees here. The invasives over there are essentially multiflora rose for the most part. You have some bittersweet that's on the adjacent lot. There's really not much along the BVW on the end here. And there's really no rose to speak of. It really doesn't, I mean, with the area here, it doesn't have room to settle in, but that's mostly what I see on site. I flagged adjacent wetland areas on abutting lots. And like, for example, the wetland I had delineated for Kyle Mann when he did his house in that same area along those same wetland systems. And the septic system I did across the street from the ledges, that area was packed with the multiflora. It's a lot more scattered, less dense in this area.
So are there invasives on site that you would be handling?
We could do like hand removals of some of the rows out. There is some rows out in this area behind here, some rows out in this area behind here. That could all be removed at the same time. You go in, you spade it, you dig it up by its root systems.
Yeah. And then the garden area behind, it looks like, I don't know if those are petals. It looks like hostas and
Yes.
would you be doing any native plantings in there? Or are you looking at the lawn for the planting plan?
No, the plantings would extend all the way through that area as well.
Okay.
So with the extension of the kitchen into the existing deck area now, did I hear that you guys were proposing like a formal foundation in that same, like where the deck's kind of poking out right there? Would that be a formal foundation, or would that just be?
No, Andrew, it's not. It's not. It will be very similar to what's there now, in that the room will be built on pillars, and that's when I had mentioned that company, Techno Metal. It's a less. You're not really excavating a large hole to then fill with a sonotube type device and pouring cement. You're not doing that. You are bringing this tractor-like piece of equipment that again has about a 4 foot wide wheelbase, and you're drilling. It's called the helicoil, Helicoil, a helicoil. And it's kind of like drilling down your pillar.
Like that.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks.
It looks like it was direct push, but it's an auger or a coil?
Yeah,
Like
helicals
It's an auger. You basically
Okay.
screw it into the ground.
Okay.
It's a screw, exactly.
I
Okay,
at first got a heavy metal bands when I first Googled it. Googled
Bravo
techno
for the
metal.
picture.
You get music, but anyway.
So Andrew, to complete that thought, so it's complete. It would be completely open underneath, as it is now. I mean, it might not look open because we get that lattice work there, but it's open.
Okay.
Does that stairwell go away then? If the deck is a cantilever, does that stairwell?
I think
Go
so.
away?
Yeah. I don't see that we would have.
The stair wouldn't be. It wouldn't work mechanically. The stairway would have to go.
Yeah.
Okay. So
the access to the deck would be from the side door.
So the side deck would stay there. That side strip.
Side strip would stay here, and the access would be along this side strip.
Okay. And so if you don't have the stairwell, does the patio, the paver patio, is that all staying? What's in this picture right here?
That probably will. Honestly, that probably will go. And why? Because there's no need for it, I guess, because you don't have we won't have easy access to it, so there's sort of no need for it. And then in turning over a good portion of the lawn to the plantings per Matt's proposal, then I probably can see me wanting to sacrifice the patio just to recapture a little bit of yard.
Which would be this right here, because this section basically right here, because from this section on here would be what's built over it. So
right.
This, we'd have the rock under this area. This would be lawn. This area going into here would be the planting area, along with the management area around for the invasive species. Nice part about the planting plan is, in plain English, it's pretty to look at, and it'll look beautiful for the ledges. So, they may be giving up some manicured lawn, but they will have a very beautiful backyard that functions quite well for the protection of that wetland system. So, the trade-offs are more altruistic and beneficial to the wetland than you would get with a manicured lawn.
Definitely, and you'll lose some impervious surface by taking some of that patio away, so that's.
Exactly.
So.
Well, I think just circling back around, I think this boils down to the waiver and if the commission feels as though they've met that requirement.
I feel they've met the requirement.
I would agree. I think they've done a lot of work on the plan and appreciate the effort. So, great job.
Thank you.
We definitely appreciate the productive exchange.
Yeah, and I think one thing that it's clear you've given a lot of thought into how to restore some of the function of the buffer to the area around the intermittent stream. I think that's the piece that was the most concerning to me. Long Lake is heavily impacted, and so anything we can do to restore the function of the area adjacent is beneficial. And then, pulling the kitchen back to the existing deck area, I think falls more in line with what we've done for other projects.
Can we just go back to the original plan for erosion control and to see how that now fits with the scope of the project, and if we are going to add some type of fence that marks no access into your plantings?
Okay, let me go up one.
Or if
The
there's
edge of the BVW is along here. So we will do staked in wattles, and if you want silt fence, we'll add the silt fence as well along the edge of the BVW. Because as you recall, the plantings in my plan go adjacent to it. So that would protect the wetland from erosion. And then after everything is stabilized, we would have the fence put in. Actually, probably put the fence in at the same, sections of the fence at the same time, so we can still go back and do any extra plantings if we need to. But when everything is said and done, the area will be stable. The shrubbery and the cultivars will be in, and the fence would be up. And then once the commission agrees it's sufficiently stable, as stated in my planting plan, you guys could give us permission to then remove the erosion protection.
I think, Matt, you already know that there's no stockpiling in any of that area. So how do you propose to remove the grass?
Well, that's going to be taken off site and disposed of properly by the landscape person.
Okay, so it's not going to be it's not going to be pulled up and mounded there. So
Oh,
they'll scrape.
No, that with the amount of lawn you'd have to pull out, the amount of sod, it would just get in the way.
No, we wouldn't allow someone to just dump it elsewhere on the property. Yeah.
It would be problematic from a lot of different standpoints.
Correct.
To say the least.
Reminding you of the rules.
Nope. Point noted. Thank you.
Matt, did you submit a revised plan?
Thank you. That was exactly what I was just gonna ask. Like, this is all great, but I'd like to see all of this on we haven't seen their final proposed plan here.
I've submitted the revised planting plan. I can resubmit the plan showing the new dimensions, specifying the cantilever deck, and putting notes
taking
on
away
it.
that stairwell.
Yep, taking away the stairwell. Yep.
Are we talking about dry wells, or where are we with roof drainage? I know Anna had mentioned that.
We can do a dry well. I mean, that shouldn't be a problem on that site.
Yeah, cite that on the plan too, please. That'd be great.
Absolutely.
If I can ask a question about that, I mean, presently there is a gutter. Well, presently the gutter in the rear directs the water towards the back where all the planting area was going to be. So if we maintain that location for the gutter, that very precise location for the gutter, can that serve at least a portion of the stormwater management?
Well, if we did that, John, we'd have to put a riprap like energy dissipator over there to slow any flow coming out of that down. I mean, yeah, the rain garden planting scenario that we're proposing should handle the flow.
Yeah.
But what I'd want to do is, because it's basically pointing out from a downspout, I'd want to have like a splash pad under it. And I mean with large rock that's usually used to like armor a slope, not pea stone. It wouldn't take much of it.
Okay. But we can certainly, and Matt, you and I can work together on summarizing all these points into a fresh plan.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so Matt, can you have that for May 24th?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Would the commission find it helpful to have numbers on this? I mean, I've kind of been trying to add this up. It looks like the kitchen is 15 by 15, so that's 225 square feet.
Right.
Plus the deck, which is 75 square feet, I believe.
That would be the new proposed cantilever
Right.
deck, yes.
You're replacing a certain amount of deck, losing a certain amount of patio, plus adding 400 square feet of restoration area. So it'd probably be helpful in balancing the waiver to have those numbers kind of cranked out.
I can do that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
that's
should be
easy
fairly
enough.
straightforward, but that should be right in the order of conditions if the commission
We
moves
can do
ahead.
that. Yep. And try to make it clear.
Okay, we're going to keep moving on unless any commissioners have any other comments. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So it's 9:30. We're going to do the 8:45 continued public hearing notice of intent 12 Blood Road. DEP 204. This does not note a DEP number. I'm not sure if there is one. Repair.
It's coming. It's
repair of
9:34.
Patio and rock wall.
For Matt and Sheila Field.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, John.
I understand that the commission participated in a site visit last week. I was not able to attend. I also submitted supplemental information today in the form of pictures of the existing retaining wall that is along the front line of the lake.
Okay, if that was submitted today, we haven't reviewed it. Do you want to screen share those, John?
Sure.
Thanks.
So there are a series of 4 photos that were taken in mid-March that show the existing retaining wall. The one I believe you're looking at is labeled Figure 1. It's taken from the lake. As you can see, it's down quite a bit, and it faces towards the rear of the house. You can see that here's the concrete pad, and to the right is the dock. You can see that there's a handful of rocks that have fallen down, and the wall is slumping a little bit. The second picture is the same perspective on the opposite side of the dock. The dock is now on the left side. This area of the wall is in fairly good shape, but there is still some slumping at the top. The third picture is looking towards the dock from the shoreline. You can see that the ice does quite a bit of damage lifting and pushing the stones around. So there are a handful of stones down here that would be picked up and placed back in the wall. The last picture is, again, almost the same perspective. From the lake, looking towards the retaining wall, with the house in the background. Those were submitted today in a letter requesting the field to be able to repair the wall, which would entail restacking the overturned stone wall, the stones, The work would either be accomplished by hand if the stones are able to be lifted, or by a small track excavator that would lift some of the heavier stones, place them back in the position along the wall. Are there any questions?
I guess I'll jump in, Matt. I didn't have a chance. I mean, not Matt. Sorry, John. Amy had forwarded some of the comments from May 4th, the DEP, regarding the Chapter 91 and just some of those questions. I was curious if you've had an opportunity to review some of their questions and had rebuttals back to them. And I think some of them was pertaining to 100-year flood zones and things like that.
Yes. So obviously, the wall would, if it didn't exist, would require that Chapter 91 licensing, simply because the work would even. Let me back up. The base flood elevation for the pond, it appears, is a number 207.8. Unfortunately, the plan that you have doesn't represent or doesn't refer to that datum, the NAVD 88 datum. I used assumed elevations, but from just looking at the wall, the typical elevation is about 12 inches lower than the top of the wall. The base flood elevation would be someplace in between. So clearly the work of constructing the wall or filling would require that permit. I think that there is a simplified process for the dock. There's a simple 91 permit that is available if the fields were to want to permit that dock. So yes, in short, I have looked at the comments. I agree that if we were going to construct the wall, then we certainly would be working in that base foundation. But I think if we're simply taking the rocks and standing them back up, we're not filling or altering within that BFE.
So is the dock permanent, or is it like temporary, in and out, seasonal with float structures? Because that makes a difference for Chapter 91. Like if it's a float structure, it can be permitted by the harbor master, which I understand in Littleton is Tim Mikulski. Whereas if it's a permanent dock, that's it. That's at least I'm not an expert on Chapter 91, but I've certainly dealt with it here and there.
Yeah,
that's my understanding. Is that your understanding?
Too. Yes, that is my understanding.
Okay.
The dock is floating. It's built.
It's seasonal.
It has styrofoam or barrels. I haven't looked at it in a long time.
So does it come in and out in the different seasons?
No, I think it's too big. It's just
okay.
Tied off. It can certainly be.
It can be removed.
It could be. Yeah,
okay.
I think it would probably take a trailer and a piece of equipment. It's certainly not bigger than the 600 square foot maximum.
Right. Yeah, and I don't know that they make a distinction of whether you actually do take it in or out. It's the distinction of whether it's floating and considered temporary versus on piles.
Right. So,
but again, that's my limited understanding of Chapter 91. Okay. And then I thought there was a question. Was there a question about the wall too with Chapter 91? I know you yes. Just went through some of the wall pieces, and it sounds like, based on what I read, if you keep what's there, it's not subject, but if you bring rocks in, it is.
Yeah, I would agree that if you were going to fill in the BFE, it would require that license. I don't, as the proposal has been described, we're not proposing to import any stone or fill material to repair the walls.
And what time of year are the pictures that you're showing?
I think they're from mid-March of this year.
Oh, okay. That water's pretty low.
So I think, Julia, I just jumped on to chapter 91 authorization is required for the following jurisdictional activities. Number 1, placement, construction, or alteration of any structure regardless of size, whether permanent or seasonal. I don't know if, honestly, I don't know it well enough to know if that's considered a the rock wall or something else.
Well, I would say that it is a structure.
Okay. So then it states, so as you reaffirmed, chapter 91 authorization is required. Okay. Any commissioners have any questions or comments? Questions for John?
So now if you're throwing chapter 91 into that, that would need to be in place before we can approve an order. Is that correct?
Those intent goes first.
Sorry, that's it.
Chapter 91 requires an order of conditions.
I'm wondering, I think in March we were in a drought again. Conditions, if the conditions change significantly from this, like if it's really wet, does that change your approach, or would you still do the same thing?
I don't think it would change the approach much. I think the hope and the intent is that the top line of that wall could be stabilized so that there isn't the sloughing in of soil, and I think you can see in some of the pictures some smaller soil, some smaller stones have been added where the soil just by erosion goes into the water. So
And these water levels are driven as much by the winter drawdown as by anything else.
Yeah, yes.
Oh, yeah.
I should mention that I believe that this was during the drawdown.
Right.
Right. I believe Matt said during our site walk that this work wouldn't be imminent. It would wait until that low water period before they tried to perform any of this wall work.
That is correct.
Mhm.
I don't know, fix it.
Can you hear Matthew?
Yes.
Right. So I think
Amy, was it Amy and Julie that went out to the site, or someone went out?
I went.
A whole bunch of people went.
A bunch of us went. It was a pretty straightforward site visit. The piers that are supporting the house are, clearly subsiding. I think the one question was regarding the concrete patio. I think, Amy, you were going to see if Ed had anything. Did you get a chance to do that?
Yeah, it's hard to tell exactly what the dimensions were, but as Matt pointed out, you can tell that most of that concrete that you see in the corner of the picture right there was the original house slab.
Yeah.
It
looked similar. I agree. It looked similar when we were on site. That was just
so in one sense, it didn't get permitted, but it was always there.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for checking on that.
Yeah.
As far as I know, that was the only other piece that was outstanding. I think it was pretty, other than the rock wall and the chapter 91 question, the rest of it I felt was pretty straightforward. I don't have any other questions.
So Amy, just to follow back, so we do the order of conditions and then they apply for chapter 91?
Well, they can apply for the chapter 91, I believe, anytime, but they won't issue anything until there's an order of conditions.
Okay, thank you.
Shall I make a motion? I'll make a motion that we close the public hearing for 12 Blood Road and issue an order of conditions. So DEP file number 204-934.
34.
Second.
And a waiver also.
And a waiver.
And just a point of reference, that will note that it will have to be under certain water level specifications as well. So obviously not during high water.
Oh, that's it.
Correct?
Not the patio, just the repairing of the walls. Is that correct, Sarah?
Yep.
Yeah, do it in the dry.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't want to get in the water and do it anyway. I wait until it's down.
Okay. Carl, you want to do roll call?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, who seconded that? I missed that.
I did.
Thank you.
Carl Melberg, aye. Sarah Seward,
Sarah Seward, aye.
James Pickard,
Jim, you're on mute.
Short timer. He's checking out already.
Carry on, Carl.
all right, we'll come back to Jim. Andrew Smarco,
Thumbs up, Jim.
Andrew Smarco,
Andrew Samarco, aye.
Brian Crowley,
Brian Crowley, aye.
Kyle Maxfield,
Kyle Maxfield, aye.
Julie Rupp.
Julie Rupp, aye.
That's unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Sean. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you, John.
Okay, the next 9 o'clock continued public hearing notice of intent 0 Lake Street. DEP 204-929, construction of new house and associated work.
Hi, good evening, everyone. This is Tim McGuire from Goddard Consulting here on behalf of Ron Raffi for this project. And I will do a quick screen share if that's okay. So again, good evening, everyone. For the record, again, Tim McGuire, I'm a wetland scientist for Goddard Consulting. We've been before the commission several times for this project, and we have provided the most recent request of the commission, which is to show the trees within on-site buffer zone and to indicate which of those are going to be removed and which are going to be kept. So for trees, you can kind of see them faintly overlaid here behind the proposed work. Essentially, we're removing 5 trees with the proposed work, 1 black cherry, 1 red maple, and 3 Norway maples. So that would be 2 native species to be removed and 3 Norway maples. And just as a reminder from the last hearing, this is the buffer zone restoration plan that we are proposing. Again, we're impacting 2,960 square feet of 100-foot buffer zone on site. We're not touching the 50-foot buffer zone at all. And we are proposing mitigation for those 100-foot buffer zone impacts at approximately 6,439 square feet. So just a reminder, we're proposing over double the mitigation for the buffer zone impacts that we are proposing on site, including land on the land owned by the town abutting to the south here in between the wetlands. So we're proposing to clean up the invasive species there, along with monitoring and the planting of several new plantings here as well. And a reminder that the replication plan narrative does state that we will take every effort as possible to transplant any native species that will be removed into this area. And another reminder that the reason that these plantings are so sparse is that it is to kind of account for the fact that there are existing native trees and shrubs in this area, and they will be planted with the discretion of the wetland scientist. Also, as we discussed last week, this area in question here, we're proposing to put 2 sweet pepper bushes in just to have some wetland species be placed in that area in between the walking path that runs through here and the house. So to conclude, we are proposing double the mitigation for this project than we are impacting buffer zones. And for the questions of the trees that were brought up last week, we're removing 5 trees, 3 of which are Norway maples, and we're planting a minimum of 10 new trees. So again, that would be double the quantity of trees and even more so of those that are native species. So this is really the only update we have from the last hearing, and is to just show these trees occurring in buffer zone with the indication of which will be, sorry, it's on this plan, which will be kept and which will not. So I'm happy to open up the project to discussion and question from the commission at this time. Thank you.
I just have the one question, which was the trees we had asked before to use like best management practices and trying to protect the critical root zones. And so I think there were trees we thought were staying. And then I think what prompted the request for, okay, what trees are being removed was because I think it sounds like you're removing the trees like up front. So I guess if you could remind me what the status is of that, if they're being removed or if you're able to protect them, that would be helpful.
Yes,
those are, you know what they are.
Those trees are outside of buffer zone. That's how we concluded the last meeting. And unfortunately, they do fall within, likely within the area that they will be, they will have, several of them will have to be removed around here for the driveway. There's only a couple of them in that area. And there was also right over here by the telephone pole, there was a couple of red maples that are going to stay. So we're losing a couple here. But again, to reiterate, you know, we're clearing the entire site and the abutting conservation land of the invasive species with 2 years of monitoring and new plantings of plants to the south.
Yep. And I appreciate that. It's I think it'll be a real benefit to have the invasive species removed and the plantings. My interest was just to better understand, you know, what was coming out. Do you know what trees are coming out for the driveway? Understanding they're out of the buffer zone.
Off the top of my head, I do not have notes on the species. I think there was a couple red maples, but those that I cared to, you know, I took care to have marked on the plan were those that were in buffer zone here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Can you reference 2 years of monitoring? Is that monitoring of invasive or monitoring of the plantings?
Both.
Okay. Historically, the commission has asked for 3 in some of the more sensitive projects. So that would be my encouragement, is to monitor for a cycle of 3 years. If the commissioners wish to add that.
Yeah, I agree, Sarah. That's what we've been using.
Sounds good.
Tim, are you removing any snags or just the living trees? Do you know off the top of your head?
I don't think there were many snags hanging on any of these trees that are going to be removed. I know the cherry tree over here, I remember it was covered with common ivy and poison ivy, but the only thing, I think it was this red maple over here that's going to be removed. It wasn't quite dead, but it wasn't in the best condition. I would like to point that out. It did have some buds coming in, but certainly not as robust as the other red maples in the vicinity that seem to be doing better.
We do like dead trees too, just for the record.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, does anybody else have any other questions? I know you've come in numerous times and we certainly appreciate you listening to the feedback of the commission.
Would the commission want me to go out or have them pre-stake where these trees are going to go, and we can have a discussion about that? Because it's going to be decided on the ground.
Yeah, so Amy, if I could just add, kind of what we were thinking was that I guess it could be good to pre-stake. Would that kind of be a pre-construction meeting kind of thing to do? Just because these were just placed in kind of, you know, with general field knowledge, understanding that there are a bunch of live trees out there and shrubs.
Yeah, so they could move a lot.
Sorry, say again?
They could move a lot, you know, once you're out there on the ground standing there. So
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So yes, we would support that type of pre-meeting.
Okay, great.
Is there a commissioner that would like to make a motion?
Sure. I'll make a motion that we close the public hearing for 0 Lake Street, U12-21, DEP file number 204-929, and provide an order of conditions with the condition that Amy just mentioned.
I'll second.
A roll call. Cal Melberg, aye. Sarah Seward,
Sarah Seward, aye.
James Pickard,
James Pickard, aye.
Andrew Samarco,
Andrew Samarco, aye.
Brian Crowley,
Brian Crowley, aye.
Kyle Maxfield,
Kyle Maxfield, aye.
Julie Rupp,
Julie Rupp, aye.
and it's unanimous.
All right, thank you very much, everyone.
And thanks for the hard work, Tim.
Thank you.
So a little bit before 10 o'clock, we've got the 9:15 Point Wastewater Treatment Facility and Construction Update. I don't believe they're coming in, but I think Amy was just going to.
Oh, Tim's here.
Oh, Tim, you are here. All
I'm
yours.
here.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Hope everyone's well. Haven't seen everyone in a while.
You're breaking up.
Let's
Tim.
see where to begin.
Tim, just so you know, you're breaking up. So if you want to start again.
Sure. Just make sure my internet. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. This is for an update for points. Again, my name for the record is Tim Power with Land Strategies, representing the owners and Beaverbrook Wastewater Treatment Facility. We were asked to come in just to give an update on the wastewater treatment facility and construction update. We are currently in the process of a modification with DEP for the existing wastewater treatment plant. What we found, I'll back up a little bit. This original plant was designed in 2 phases, as you know. Phase 1, which was constructed with the beginning of the shopping center, is what you see there today. There's one small building way out back behind Market Basket with a series of tanks in front. The original design was to then build a phase 2 as the shopping center continued to develop, almost a mirror image of what was there today. As time went on and the development continued and slowed a little bit, we got a little bit delayed, and we had original permit dates. We had 2 constraints on our permit with DEP. One was a Title V design flow of 55,000 gallons per day, so we could build this shopping center with any number of uses that were defined in the permit up to a flow of 55,000 gallons per day. And also a date, which I believe was in June of actually 2018. So just through some of the delays and the cinema took a little longer, we didn't meet the dates. We did not exceed the design flow. And even today, we're still below that design flow. So we talked to DEP at that time. They gave us an original administrative consent order and some new dates. We worked towards getting the financing, which proved to be a little bit of a challenge. So that took a little while. We were about 3 weeks from closing on the financing to build the phase 2 plant. When COVID hit, financing completely fell through. So we weren't able to close and start that plant. The underlying benefit was the flows to the treatment plant also went down. So everything was working fine at the time as we went. So as we went through DEP in our discussions, they did just an inspection of the plant as sort of a matter of due course. And we learned that the strength of our wastewater was about 3 to 4 times higher than what was anticipated in the design. So what the operator was doing to keep up was pumping wastewater from the EQ tank and bringing it to another facility. So when DEP realized that and we realized that, they said, you can't continue on like that when things start ramping up. So we've continued our discussions with them. We now have a design in place that is being reviewed by DEP that will account for that higher strength wastewater. And that's construction we're hoping to do this summer. At that time, the sort of plant will be back to where we were, so we can handle all the buildings that are built today. There are some future buildings we had planned, which obviously won't be built until the original phase 2 of the plant will be built out. I have can I do a screen share, Amy? I think I can. Oops. Share. It's just to show you the site plan. This is out back behind Market Basket, down in the corner here is Market Basket. So this is the parking lot out behind. We had reviewed this plan with the commission back when we were going to do the full phase 2. What's in red is really our erosion control and sediment control. So we intend to reinstate this when we do the construction of this modification. I'll zoom in. I have a little bit of a better plan also I can show you. So these boxes here are essentially what's in the ground today in the small building. They're proposing to put in a series of 3 tanks very close to each other here and 2 other tanks here, which really coincide with the future phase 2. So that's the limit of the construction, really within the footprint of that, all of that facility within the work zone we had contemplated for the phase 2 design to move forward. This is, again, all under review now by DEP. I believe we are about 2 weeks or so into their initial review. So we're hopeful that we'll get some comments within the next couple of weeks, can respond and then get a new modified permit in place. Beyond that, there's no other construction, site construction plans for the shopping center. We had some tenants interested that we've paused on construction until we get the treatment plant modified, just based on our discussions with DEP. And the last piece I know the commission is waiting for as well is our conservation restriction. We did actually just get an email from Ray Lyons, the attorney, that they have a final surveyed plan, and we hopefully will be circulating that soon for signatures. So we haven't forgot about it, but it should be around shortly. So I know there's probably been, I heard there's been local chatter. I haven't really been involved in those discussions in town. So if there's any other questions or open questions about the treatment plant or what is happening, I'm happy to answer them. But that's sort of the quick high-level overview of where it stands today.
Has there been any investigation about why the higher concentrations occurred in the plant?
Yes. Yes. So I'm going to answer that in 2 ways. One, we did sampling for 30 days at the treatment plant to really determine exactly what we were seeing for strength, wastewater strength at the plants. So it's no longer theoretical. It's really based on actual numbers. And DEP said, we appreciate any efforts to try to reduce the strength and it's really the BOD, the biochemical oxygen demand, which is the high constituent we're looking at. If there's any efforts to reduce that, that's great, but we're going to hold you to the higher number we see from the sampling, really just to be conservative. So since then, since we want to have our own contingency after this is all built, we've done some in-depth restaurant surveys. Typically, the restaurants are the ones that create the BOD. It's really the organics. If there's any grease in the line or fats, oil, and grease and organics that get down the drain that increase the BOD. So we've done restaurant surveys just to make sure everyone has their internal grease traps. The property manager manages the external grease traps. They get pumped monthly. We've inspected them to make sure they have their proper tees and fittings. So that's well, maintenance for that as well, been well controlled. But I think we're just seeing higher BOD because of the number of the restaurants and the success of them. Whereas if we had some more dry retail or more lower strength, we'd be diluting the wastewater, which we're not seeing. So we're really getting kind of a stronger stream coming in because there's no dilution, which may be expected in other typical shopping centers that have a lot more retail and less restaurants in ratio. So we're looking at those pieces also.
Okay, thank you.
Tim, are you looking into, it looks like there's some VOC detections in your December 2020 DMR, specifically chloroform and toluene. Are you guys looking, I mean, toluene can be in a lot of things, but chloroform is kind of an interesting detection. So I don't know if you had noticed that, but while you're trying to determine the higher strength effluent, that was in an effluent sample point, by the way.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I don't look at these specifically. So I'm happy to have our operator look at them just so we flag it. But it was a high number, you said, in 2020?
December 2020 DMR of the effluent, there were VOCs.
Okay. Sure.
They weren't high, although the chloroform was 5 micrograms per liter lower than a reportable condition, like if you had it in groundwater, whereas this is effluent, so there's a different standard. But
could it be, that sounds maybe medical? Could it be Emerson Urgent Care? Yeah.
But they shouldn't be putting anything down the drain. I mean, they should be using, maybe some wastewater I'm sure wastewater education goes a long way as far as what folks put down the drain. But
yeah, and if it was only 1 month, maybe it was just a anomalous.
Well, there were a lot of months that there didn't seem to be any samples collected. It was like the first sample in a year. So I'm not sure. I just took a peek at some of the 2020 ones. I was also wondering, you mentioned the 55,000 gallons. I thought phase 1 had a 38,500 gallon limit.
It does. So the reason for the difference is that the way the permit was written is phase 1 has a 38,500 gallons per day discharge limit. However, in the interim, to be able to keep moving forward with some of the construction we had and what was going on, the DP sort of gave us some leeway and said you can build out the space to 55,000 gallons per day, which is sort of inherent in Title V calculations that there's a peaking factor and a variability factor. So the Title V design flows are usually higher than actual flows. Actual flows are usually 60%. So I think they were relying on that fact that we would never quite catch up to the discharge, and knowing that the second phase of the plant was on the heels of it. So unfortunately didn't quite work out that way, but and then COVID hit and everything sort of blew up from there. So that's the difference why we've built out the shopping center to that design flow, but the discharge limit was held to 38.5.
Okay. And then there are a number of vacancies as well. So I would imagine you weren't all that concerned about exceeding.
No, we weren't. And even if you look at pre-COVID flows, there were a couple of peak days where some of the pumping happens. And if you take what they pumped for a day and hauled off site and add it to one whole day, the numbers show that it exceeds 38.5. However, that's not really accurate of how it would happen if it was stayed in the system. That volume that they pumped out would have been spread out over 2 or maybe 3 days. And we look at it that way, that average, we had never exceeded 38.5. We had approached it a couple times in some peak situations. But the averages, the monthly averages pre-COVID were about 26,000 gallons per day, with some peak days. So we weren't really approaching that 38.5 consistently. Again, some peak days, but nothing that caused concern. And again, the permit threshold, the test was always if you are if your average annual flow exceeds 80% of your discharge limit, you have to talk to DEP and say, you know, you're creeping up, what are you going to do? We didn't hit that. So we never hit that threshold on an annual average. So that's why we weren't looking at it.
So that I know it sounds like there were some emergencies in trucking water off site. Do you know where the wastewater was trucked to?
I do. I have all the slips that we've provided, and DEP at this point has all the slips as well. They went to one of two municipal treatment plants, and I don't know them off the top of my head. I feel like one was Cranston, Rhode Island. I forget what the other one is, but I'm happy to follow up and let you know. Everything was licensed trucking.
I mean, that's good. The reason I was asking is, you know, one of the things that, you know, the DEP and, you know, the town looks at, you know, as we design our own wastewater is to keep the water within our watershed. You know, so it sounds like 2.5 million gallons of water that was intended to remain in our watershed has been removed. And so I'm wondering if you've seen, you know, impacts in, you know, we've had droughts, you know, and I'm just wondering, you know, about impacts to groundwater elevation that you've seen at the site. I don't expect you to have an answer off the top of your head, but from a conservation standpoint, we are concerned with, you know, the recharge of groundwater and the maintenance of our watersheds.
So we can certainly look into that. And I'd just like to add, I know that 2.5 million gallons is a big number. I think this is less than 10% of the flow that we did get. So, you know, I think we're in the 20 million gallons that did get treated and recharged. So it was in that range. So I'd like to keep that in context, right? That so much water left, but a lot of water still made it in. So it, you know, wasn't all taken away at the same time. And a little bit of a good segue too, just because I know the well is right up around the corner from us. At no time did the treatment plant discharge untreated wastewater into the leach fields or out of the system. The only thing that happened was that it was pumped out from a tank and brought to another.
Okay. And it was stronger than anticipated.
It was stronger than anticipated, but all the water that went through the facility, our own facility on site, was treated and met permit. We'll certainly look in the VOC numbers that you just told us, but you know, we have no other permit violations coming out from the water leaving the pipe to our leach field.
It did look like, again, I just looked at 2020 quickly to try to get a basic idea of what you're monitoring for. And, you know, so as is typical, you don't monitor every single well every single month. You know, so there's some gaps there. I did notice the piezometers, which are representative of the more shallow groundwater, you know, or soil. I don't know the construction or the elevation of them. They seem to have higher concentrations of, you know, nitrates and, you know, other like phosphorus and that type of thing. You know, so whereas we, as the commission, you know, would be more concerned about surface water and habitat, those numbers caught my attention that they seem to be, you know, increasing. You know, and usually I read through, I think a 2013 hydrogeological modeling, and it indicated it would take about 10 years, you know, for high nitrates, for example, to make their way to the nearest well half a mile away. So I just feel like that's something we need to keep an eye on, you know, as far as the elevation of the discharge pipe versus our wetlands. You know, they are connected. So I feel as though, you know, the point should look into some of that and look at the concentrations and consider collecting some surface water samples.
Sure. I think we can do that.
All right. I don't think I have anything.
Luckily, I just want to say with regard to the volatiles, the toluene, et cetera, just in my experience with waste site cleanup, in order to impact surface waters, the volatiles have to be very high levels, and there's a good distance between where the volatile enters the groundwater and then the surface water. They're usually dissipated and they don't impact surface water that easily.
It looked to me, Anna, like they're not supposed to be discharging VOCs at all on the permit.
That may be true, but I'm just stating about the risk to the surface water.
Yep. No, understood. I don't think I guess to clarify, I'm more concerned about the nitrate, phosphorus, nutrients, and not the VOCs on surface water. So yes, that is a good point. And I was not thinking about VOCs from that standpoint. I was thinking about the nutrients and the other items that'll impact the habitat.
Okay. Does anybody else have any other questions for Tim? Okay. Tim, we appreciate you coming in for the update.
So do we need a permit?
No problem. And if anybody wants a tour for whatever reason, we're happy to give a tour.
Okay. I guess the other thing I wanted to know too is I know our order of conditions might be expiring like in a year. What do you need from us from that standpoint to make sure you can construct your upgrade?
I thought it was 2023.
I think we issued it in 2019, so I think it would be more like 2022.
But it also gets told. It's all been told for at least a year right now, so the clock's not ticking.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
And also, we're hoping to have this modification in this summer. So I think we'll be good for now. And then if we have to cross the bridge for the full phase 2 design, we'll do that.
Okay. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chairman, it's 10:16. Anybody have anything else?
I have one comment.
Okay.
On Taylor Street, next to Beaver Brook, that house that wanted to do the new wall, the water is right against the wall, crescent wooden wall now. So that's not the dry time of year.
Is he doing work right now?
Huh?
Are they doing the work right now?
No, but I'm just saying the water is right up against it. I was under the impression that there was a little bit of leeway between the wall and the Beaver Brook.
Yeah, I mean enough to walk by. There wasn't a lot of land down below there when we walked through.
Well, it's what I saw the other day. It must be high water right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything from them about wanting to start.
Okay. I would suspect you probably should be asking for an adjournment.
Oh, before we do that, do we have to make a formal recommendation to the select board for their appointments?
I think you do.
For what?
For the appointments?
The appointments.
Yeah, well, yeah, I told them, well, we can
Understand.
certainly take the vote for, I can't remember who it was, Julie and Carl. We need a new person, and I told them we might not be able to make that recommendation by June 1st, because first of all, they're due by June. The applications are due by June 1st. So, but yeah, we can make the first two if the commission is so inclined.
Sounds good.
I mean, is that a motion, Andrew?
I'll make it a motion. I'll make it a motion that the commission recommend reappointment Julie, Carl, and let's see, and Matt as an associate.
Matt said he was done, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
Matt.
yeah,
We didn't accept that.
I'm spending my time with the Shade Tree Commission.
Oh, so you don't want to be an associate?
Well, you already have an associate now, so Seems over associated.
I don't think that's a word, Matt.
Two very different viewpoints, though.
I think if we can have two associates and match interested, we would. I think his expertise on the trees is very.
Having him for trees has been awesome.
So
I second
Matt,
it.
I'd
I
have
second. Matt, I'm seconding your name in. You can come and go as you please.
Fine.
Well, he'd have to reapply, so if he's not reapplying, your movement doesn't make any difference.
Come on, Matt. Peer pressure at its finest.
I'll consider it.
I know, and at like 10:30 at night.
Yeah,
He's
why
not
do I want to
losing
sign up
at
for
the
this?
perfect time. All right, so I second your motion, Andrew.
I'm sorry, what was the motion?
That we
Julie and Carl?
and Matt.
I mean, you have to have Matt's buy-in to recommend him.
He just said fine.
Oh, you said fine? Okay.
It was a very quiet, begrudging fine, but I heard it
Yes,
as well.
I heard it. Yeah.
It was, yeah.
Okay, so I second it, and Carl will do roll call.
So can I vote for myself?
Absolutely.
You're just doing attendance.
Aye.
Vote. So.
Cal Melberg.
Sarah
Aye.
Stewart, aye.
James Pickard.
James Pickett, aye.
Andrew Smarco.
Andrew Smarco, aye.
Brian Crowley.
Brian Crowley, aye.
Kyle Maxfield.
Kyle Maxfield, aye.
Julie Rupp.
Julie Rupp, aye.
And unanimous.
Yep.
I make a motion that we adjourn this meeting at 10:22 p.m.
Second.
All in favor, Carl Melberg, aye.
Sarah Seward, aye.
James
James
Pickard.
Aye.
Andrew Smarco.
Andrew Smarco, aye.
Brian Crowley.
Brian Crowley, aye.
Kyle Maxfield.
Kyle Maxfield, aye.
Julie Rupp.
Julie Rupp, aye.
That's unanimous.
I say aye too.
Thank you, Anna.
Very
All right, good night.
supportive.
All right.
Good night,
Thanks, everyone.
everybody.
Have a good night.
Good night, everybody.